Every man reaches a breaking point, a moment where he realizes that no matter how much effort he gives, how consistent he becomes, or how much attention he offers, it will never be appreciated by a woman who has grown too comfortable. Ignoring you became easy for her. Delayed replies became normal. Dry messages became routine. Her pride told her that you'd always be there, always reaching out, always ready to fill the silence she created. But then something powerful happened, something she never expected. You stopped. You stopped chasing. You stopped trying. You stopped carrying the emotional weight she kept dropping. And in that moment, her silence finally met yours. Only this time, your silence had a price. Because when a woman ignores you, she does it from a position of comfort. She believes you will continue to pursue her, no matter how little she gives. She believes her absence will make you try harder. She believes you will bend, adjust, apologize, chase, and wait. She believes her silence is leverage. But the psychological truth she never understood is this. Silence only works when the other person fears losing you. And when you stop fearing that loss, the entire dynamic flips instantly. When you respond to her silence with your own, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect, she begins to feel something she never felt before: uncertainty. Suddenly, the silence she used as a weapon becomes the silence she can't escape from. The emotional game she thought she controlled starts slipping out of her hands, and the man she once believed would always stay becomes the man she can no longer predict. At first, she tells herself she's unbothered. She acts indifferent. She forces herself to believe she doesn't care. But the feminine mind is not built to handle uncertainty for long. Women are emotional by nature, and they seek stability and masculine presence. When your presence is removed, she begins to notice the empty space where your attention used to be. And that space grows louder with every hour of your silence. She starts questioning the dynamic for the first time. She starts wondering whether she misjudged you. She replays her last messages, searching for clues she ignored. She tries to understand why you didn't chase like she expected. And soon, the silence she created begins to turn against her. Because women don't spiral when you talk too much. They spiral when you stop talking at all. Your silence becomes a mirror, forcing her to see her own behaviour clearly. It forces her to confront the moments she took you for granted. It forces her to feel the consequences of the distance she created. And slowly, the power begins shifting. Her silence no longer feels strategic. It feels risky. It feels costly. It feels like losing a man who wasn't as attached as she assumed. And that is when she begins to feel the price of ignoring you. Not because you punished her, but because you finally valued yourself enough to let your silence speak. Before we start, a quick reminder. The real transformation doesn't happen on YouTube. It happens inside the community. If these videos have opened your eyes, what's inside will rebuild your mindset completely. It's not just a course, it's a brotherhood, a private space where men master attraction, emotional control, and the psychology of power. You don't join for a month, you join for life. Every future course, book, and lesson is yours forever. No subscriptions, no limits, just one decision that changes your direction. If you're serious about growth, discipline, and purpose, click the link below. Join the community. Enroll once. Grow forever. Let's dive in. Section 1. The moment. Her silence backfires. When a woman ignores you, she never expects her silence to come with consequences. She believes it gives her power. She believes it puts her in control. She believes it makes you chase harder. And for most men, she's right. Because most men respond to silence with desperation. They double text. They apologize. They over-explain. They try to fix a problem they didn't cause. They break their dignity to maintain her interest. But you are not most men. And the moment you stop rewarding her silence with effort, the entire game changes. Her silence doesn't empower her anymore. It traps her. The first thing she feels when her silence meets yours is confusion. She counted on your predictable patterns. She expected you to fold, to message again, to re-engage even when she didn't. But when you don't, when you stay still, when you give her the same distance she gave you, she feels the emotional ground beneath her shift. Nothing destabilizes a woman faster than realizing the man she thought she controlled is not reacting the way she expected. This confusion is quiet, but it hits her deeply. Her confusion quickly turns into curiosity, the kind she cannot ignore. She wonders what changed. She wonders why you didn't chase. She wonders why your energy feels different, colder, calmer, stronger. Women feel emotional shifts like temperature changes, and your silence sends a chill through her pride. She begins checking your profile. She rereads your last messages. She looks for hints that she missed something. This curiosity is the beginning of her internal spiral. Then she feels the sting of insecurity, the one emotion she tries hardest to hide. She begins asking herself questions she never asked before. Was I too dry? Did I push too far? Did I seem uninterested? Did I overplay my confidence? Is he done with me? Did he lose interest? Has he moved on? These questions don't appear slowly. They flood her mind the moment she realizes your silence isn't temporary. She pretends she's fine, but her thoughts run wild. She then enters the comparison stage, which always amplifies everything. She imagines other women. She imagines you giving attention to someone who responds with warmth and softness instead of distance. She imagines a woman who appreciates what she ignored. Even if there is no other woman, the idea of competition drives her deeper into emotional discomfort. This is where the price of her silence begins to cut, because now she is feeling the same uncertainty she once made you feel. And the deeper the silence goes, the more she experiences the loss of control. Women don't need a relationship to feel attached. They only need consistency. Your presence was her emotional stability. Your attention was her reassurance. Your interest was her power. And when all of that disappears, she feels naked, exposed, unanchored. She starts realizing that you never needed her to feel valuable. She needed you to feel desired. This is when she finally feels the first real consequence of ignoring you. She realizes she's no longer the one deciding the pace. Your silence stole the illusion of control she once clung to, because the moment she ignored you was the moment she unknowingly handed you the power she thought she had. Section 2. How your silence forces her to feel what you felt. When she ignored you, she didn't think twice. She didn't consider how it made you feel. She didn't stop to wonder whether you spent your day waiting for a reply, questioning your worth, or replaying conversations in your mind. Her silence cost her nothing because she believed your attention would always be there to catch her laziness. But when you stop chasing, when you stop feeling the gap she creates, when you stop rewarding her distance with effort, something powerful and poetic begins to happen. She starts feeling the exact emotions she once caused in you. The first emotion she feels is the uncertainty she made you live with. She never felt it before because you always removed it with your consistency. She always knew you would text back. She always knew you would apologize first. She always knew you would keep the connection alive even when she didn't care enough to do her part. But when your silence replaces your effort, that uncertainty becomes her new reality. She hates it because she finally realizes how deeply it stings. Then she feels the insecurity she thought only men felt. When you were chasing, She never questioned her value. She assumed your interest was guaranteed. She assumed no one else could replace her. She assumed she had emotional authority. But with your silence, her confidence cracks. She begins comparing herself to other women. She wonders if you found someone softer, kinder, more receptive. She wonders if she lost a man who actually valued her. This insecurity grows quietly, but it grows fast. Next, she feels the emotional pressure you carried for weeks. The same pressure that made you question whether she cared. The same pressure that made you overthink every message. The same pressure that made you doubt yourself. Now, the roles are reversed. She is the one checking her phone. She is the one rereading your last messages. She is the one wondering why you suddenly feel distant. This pressure builds because silence creates space, and space forces her to confront the emotional truth she used to avoid. After the pressure comes the frustration you once endured. She becomes irritated that you aren't responding. She becomes annoyed that you broke the pattern she relied on. She feels disrespected, confused, and emotionally unsettled. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because she never imagined she'd have to fight for your attention. This frustration slowly turns into fear, because she realizes she no longer has control over the connection. Soon, she begins feeling the regret she never expected to feel. Regret for ignoring your messages. Regret for taking you lightly. Regret for assuming you'd always be available. Regret for treating your consistency like weakness. Regret for thinking she had endless chances. Regret for misunderstanding your value. This regret doesn't come from the loss of a relationship. It comes from the loss of emotional comfort she once took for granted. And finally, she feels the longing you felt long before her. The longing for your warmth, your attention, your presence, your effort. The longing for the emotional safety your messages once brought her. The longing for the man she now realizes wasn't weak, but patient, loyal, and willing until she pushed too far. Because silence is the great equalizer. It makes her feel everything she made you feel, but twice as deeply. Section 3. Why her mind starts spiraling when you don't chase. A woman's mind spirals when she no longer understands her emotional position with a man. As long as she can predict you, she feels calm. As long as she can control the pace, she feels secure. As long as she knows you'll chase her after she pulls away, she feels confident. But the moment you step back, the moment you refuse to chase, beg, or explain, her emotional ground cracks. Because now, the certainty she depended on is gone. And uncertainty is the birthplace of the female spiral. The first reason her mind spirals is because your silence creates unanswered questions. Women are emotional detectives. They need meaning, clarity, and emotional assurance. When you disappear, even slightly, her mind begins searching for explanations. She tries to understand why you didn't react the way she expected. She wonders what changed. She starts creating theories to fill the void your silence created. The lack of answers becomes emotional noise. Noise she can't turn off. Next, her mind spirals because your silence breaks the emotional pattern she relied on. She got used to your consistency. She knew your rhythm. She expected your attention. When you don't chase after being ignored, she loses her emotional map. And the human mind hates losing patterns. It triggers the same instinct as losing control of a car. Panic mixed with fear. This panic makes her overthink every tiny detail. Then comes the fear of being replaced. One of the deepest female insecurities, women instinctively worry about losing emotional relevance, even if they pretend they don't. When you don't chase, her mind immediately jumps to the possibility that someone else is receiving the energy she once took for granted. She imagines other women. She imagines you laughing at your phone. She imagines you moving on. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. Her imagination creates emotional reality. Her spiral also grows because your silence removes her sense of control. A woman feels emotionally powerful when a man is predictable. Silence makes you unpredictable. Silence makes you mysterious. Silence makes you unresponsive to her expectations. And unpredictability creates emotional tension. The very tension that heightens attraction. The more she loses control, the more her mind tries to regain it and the harder it spirals. Another reason she spirals is because your silence exposes her internal contradictions. She pretended to be unbothered, but now she's bothered. She acted cold, but now she feels the sting of distance. She thought she held the power, but now she questions everything. These contradictions exhaust her emotionally. They make her feel vulnerable, exposed, uncertain. All the feelings she desperately tried to avoid by ignoring you in the first place. Her spiral accelerates when she starts replaying the last conversation. Women replay details with incredible emotional sensitivity. She goes back and examines everything she said, everything she didn't say, every emoji, every delay. She analyzes the last message you sent with a microscope. She checks timestamps. She looks for clues. This replaying is not logic. It's panic wearing the mask of analysis. Finally, her mind spirals because your silence forces her to imagine the worst-case scenario. She fears losing you. She fears you're done. She fears you no longer care. She fears she misread her own value in your eyes. And fear is the emotion that grips her the hardest because it's the one she can't rationalize away. When a man doesn't chase, a woman doesn't feel ignored. She feels replaced, questioned, unsettled, and drawn back to him with a force she didn't prepare for. Section 4. How her own silence turns into a trap. She didn't see coming. When she ignored you, she believed her silence gave her the advantage. She believed it made her look confident, selective, emotionally untouchable. She believed you would fall into the same pattern most men fall into, over-inking, over-chasing, over-explaining. But silence is a double-edged sword, and she never considered what would happen if you refused to play the role she expected. Because the moment you don't respond to her silence with neediness, the trap she set for you quietly shuts on her instead. The first way her silence becomes her own trap is through miscalculation. She believed ignoring you would make you try harder, but instead it cleared your vision. You stopped feeling confused. You stopped feeling pressured. You stopped feeling dependent on her responses. You regained your emotional grounding. And this shift destroys the emotional narrative she built in her head. She thought she could control the connection through absence, but she never expected your absence to be stronger than hers. Her silence also traps her because it forces her into emotional accountability. As long as you were chasing, she didn't have to look at her behavior. She didn't have to think about her cold replies. She didn't have to confront her inconsistencies. But when you stop engaging, her silence stops feeling like power and starts feeling like avoidance. It becomes a mirror showing her exactly where she failed to meet your energy. This mirror is uncomfortable because for the first time she sees that she contributed nothing while you were carrying everything. Next, her silence traps her by creating a contrast she cannot ignore. Before, she compared you to men who chase desperately. Now, your calm distance separates you from every man she's dealt with. You become the one she can't categorize, the one she can't predict, the one whose silence feels heavier than any words she's heard. Contrast is powerful because it creates emotional tension, and tension creates attraction. Her silence exaggerated that contrast in your favor. Then, Her silence becomes a trap through time. The longer she stays silent, the harder it becomes to break it. Her pride grows heavier. Her fear of appearing weak intensifies her desire to reach out battles with her ego. She wants to message you, but her pride whispers, "No, wait, he should chase." This internal war drains her emotionally because now silence isn't her strategy. It's her prison, and every moment she hesitates gives you more power. Her silence also traps her because it activates fear of emotional loss. She feels the distance increasing. She senses your detachment growing. She fears you've accepted her silence as a sign to move on. Women can handle arguments. They can handle tension. They can even handle rejection. But emotional fading that terrifies them because fading means the connection didn't end with drama. It ended quietly, naturally, through her own actions. Finally, her silence becomes a trap because she realizes your life didn't pause without her. You kept moving, you kept improving, you kept choosing yourself. She expected ignoring you to shake your confidence. Instead, it strengthened it. She expected you to chase. Instead, you evolved. She expected you to break. Instead, she broke her own illusion of control. Her silence doesn't just lose its power, it exposes her emotional misjudgment. Because when a woman ignores a man of value, the silence she used to punish him becomes the silence that punishes her instead. Section 5. Why your silence makes her regret. Ignoring you. Regret is one of the most powerful emotions a woman can feel, not because it hurts her pride, but because it forces her to confront a truth she avoided. And nothing triggers regret more effectively than a man who responds to her silence not with desperation, but with dignity. Your silence becomes a turning point in her mind, a moment where she begins to realize that ignoring you was not a demonstration of her value, but a mistake she didn't recognize until it was too late. The first stage of her regret comes from unexpected emotional discomfort. When she ignored you, she assumed she would feel nothing. She told herself you weren't that important. She convinced herself she could detach easily. But your silence challenges that belief. The emotional emptiness she expected to feel doesn't come. Instead, she feels an emptiness created by your absence. Your silence creates a vacuum, and that vacuum triggers the discomfort she never imagined. Then, regret grows stronger when she feels the loss of your attention. Women pretend they don't crave male attention, but they do, especially when that attention came from a man who was consistent, genuine, and emotionally grounded. Your attention once gave her validation, safety, reflection, and appreciation. Now that it's gone, she feels the void deeply. She begins realizing how much she relied on your presence, not because of romance, but because of the emotional support your energy provided. Her regret intensifies when she experiences the shift in power. Before she held the emotional advantage, her silence gave her control. But when you matched her silence, that advantage evaporated. Now, you are the one she wonders about. You are the one she can't predict. You are the one she hopes will reach out. This reversal forces her to see the value she once had. But through the lens of what she has now lost, regret becomes heavier when she starts feeling fear of replacement. This is where her emotions take a darker turn. She imagines another woman getting your attention. She imagines someone else receiving the warmth she ignored. She imagines you laughing at messages she used to receive. These images don't need to be real. Her mind creates them because she feels vulnerable. And when a woman imagines being replaced, regret hits her with full emotional weight. Another layer of regret comes from the realization of her own behavior. She begins seeing her cold replies, delayed messages, and detached attitude not as confidence, but as self-sabotage. She recognizes that she pushed away a man who genuinely cared. She realizes she tested someone who didn't deserve to be tested. This self-awareness stings because it exposes her emotional immaturity. She now feels regret, not just for losing your attention, but for behaving in a way that cost her access to a man of value. Finally, regret solidifies when she understands. You didn't fall apart without her. You didn't break. You didn't beg. You didn't collapse. You stayed silent, composed, strong. You shifted your energy, improved your life, focused on your purpose. Nothing makes a woman regret ignoring a man faster than watching him thrive without her. Your silence becomes the message she cannot unhear. I chose myself the moment you chose to ignore me. That is the moment her regret becomes permanent, because she realizes she didn't lose a man who needed her. She lost a man she should have valued when she had the chance. In the end, you must remember something powerful. When a woman ignores you, your silence is not meant to punish her. It's meant to protect you. It protects your self-worth. It protects your emotional clarity. It protects you from chasing someone who didn't appreciate what you were willing to give. Silence is not a weapon you use to hurt her. It is a boundary you build to protect the man you are becoming. Because the truth is simple and undeniable. A woman ignores you only when she feels safe in your effort. She takes you for granted only when your attention feels guaranteed. She acts distant only when she believes you will fill the silence she creates. But when you choose silence instead of chasing, everything flips. You stop being the man she assumes will always reach first. You stop being the man she feels she can predict. You stop being the man she thinks she can ignore without consequences. And you become the man she has to think about, the man she has to wonder about, the man she has to evaluate, the man she cannot read, cannot control, and cannot forget. Your silence becomes the moment she finally feels what she made you feel. She feels the uncertainty you endured. She feels the doubt you once carried. She feels the insecurity you hid. She feels the tension she created. She feels the loss she never expected. Your silence mirrors the emotional world she forced you to live in. Only this time, she is the one fighting to understand what went wrong. But the deeper purpose of silence isn't about making her regret ignoring you, although it inevitably does. It's about making you stronger, sharper, wiser, calmer. It's about reminding you of the value you forgot you had. It's about breaking the habit of overgiving to someone who underinvests. It's about reconnecting you with your standards, your boundaries, your mission. It's about showing yourself that you can walk away from anything that disrespects your effort. And that right there is the true price of her silence. She loses access to a man who was willing to give more than she knew how to receive. She loses the version of you who cared without hesitation. She loses the emotional safety your presence once provided. She loses the certainty she never appreciated. She loses the opportunity she didn't realize she needed to protect. Your silence doesn't just teach her a lesson. It teaches you who you truly are. A man who doesn't need attention to feel valuable. A man who doesn't beg for clarity. A man who doesn't chase where there is no reciprocity. A man who doesn't fold when someone pulls away. A man who knows that walking away is not giving up. It's leveling up. And the irony is beautiful. The moment you stop chasing her is the moment she starts chasing the stability, the presence, and the strength she lost. Because in the end, silence isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of your power. Remember, knowledge means nothing without action. If you're ready to rise above emotion and lead with purpose, join the community today at the Stoic Hub. Enroll once, grow forever.